So preparing to live stream.
Mm-hmm. Record.
So, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the 1 Point Safety Show. We are live on YouTube, and we appreciate all those who are downloading the podcast. It's an episode with myself, Scott Hartley, and my co-host, Scouse Andy, who I believe is in a good mood, or I hope he's in a good mood.
Well, ish, should I say ish? Yeah, I'm okay, man. How you doing, man?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Another week's nearly over, so we're quite far in, and another busy week in the Commanders world, shall we say? It's ups and downs and roller coasters all week. We'll go through it, and we'll go through the head coach search, and we'll get to the outcomes on that. We've also got a few bits around the playoffs, and we've got lots of fan questions to answer. So if you are in the chat live on YouTube, we appreciate you. We'll answer your questions as they come in. If you are listening to the pod, appreciate you downloading that. Numbers have been very steady, and we're enjoying doing these live streams. But hopefully, with a bit of luck, we can in the off season get some better graphics and a bit of a better intro and outro. But bit of a technophobe that way, mate. So we'll wait and see. So the head coaching search then, Scouse, obviously the three that were there initially, we had Ben Johnson deciding to stay in Detroit. We have Mike Macdonald is the new head coach in Seattle on a 6-year deal. And Bobby Slowick decided to go back to the Texans with a pay rise. Very disappointed with Ben Johnson. We can get into that, especially with the whole texting situation while they're in the air. I do find that was a little bit disrespectful, if I'm being honest with you there. The candidates interviewed then. So we had Mike Macdonald via a Zoom call, Slowick via a Zoom call, Ben Johnson via a Zoom call, Anthony Weaver, who's the associate head coach and D-lines coach at the Ravens. He was via Zoom call. And then we had an in-person with Aaron Glenn in Detroit, and he also had a Zoom. And we had Dan Quinn as a Zoom and a face-to-face too. And that obviously led to the outcome then of Dan Quinn is now the new head coach of the Washington Commanders. I'll give you his stats in 3 seasons with the Cowboys as DC. His defenses have ranked in the top 10 each year in points allowed, and twice he's led the league in takeaways. In his 6 seasons as a head coach with the Falcons, his record was 43 and 42, very mid. But also he did get them to the Super Bowl and blew the biggest lead that's ever been in the Super Bowl. Not necessarily down to his coaching, but also the following year on from that, he did get Atlanta to a playoffs again, and he got them into a playoff win. So there's a bit to work off there. When he started out as a DC in Seattle for the 2 seasons, his defense was first in yards and points allowed for both of them seasons while he was in Seattle. And he was obviously the coach of the Legion of Boom at the time. So there's a lot to work off there as a defensive guy. What are your obviously initial thoughts on Dan Quinn?
Initial thoughts is, as you said, very mid. And that's the problem. For me, he does not move the needle.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me, if I go through a little scenario with you and see what you think, and just stop me when you kind of get it, what I'm actually on about, comparisons, okay? Very well respected, very well respected coach, a player's coach. Players love playing for him. Did really well 1 season where he got a Super Bowl and lost it.
I know exactly where you're going already.
With a QV MVP. Both at the same. Yeah? Do you want me to keep going?
No, I know exactly where you're going.
You know exactly what I'm on about.
So you're saying this is Ron Rivera 2.0.
This is Ron Rivera.
Exactly where you're going.
Yeah. This is Ron Rivera. the only unless he somehow pulls it out the bag that he gets this genius offensive coordinator that we don't know about, and he hits the ground running, he's going to be another Ron Rivera because he's proven we've seen what he is. He's a good defensive coordinator. That's exactly what he is. You know, he's even then his Atlanta's defenses weren't that good. You know, I know everyone's going off his Seattle time. Mate,
and his Cowboys
if I had the Legion of Boom on my defense, mate, I wouldn't have to say much to them. Say, mate, just get out there and play, and they would actually sort it out anyway. So it wasn't like it was real skill that he needed from the Legion of Boom because how good the players were there. Atlanta, you know, yeah, his defenses were mid. They were like 14th, 15th for all the stats. You mentioned Dallas. Okay, yeah, again, hopefully with experience and with obviously he's a bit older now. Maybe there was a second go around that he can produce something different. But from what I can only go off what I've seen of him over his career, and it's excellent defensive coordinator, bang average head coach. That's the problem.
I can agree with you there. I understand exactly where you're coming from. I think, honestly, this is maybe third choice. I don't want to say that is the case, but I think they were heavily in for Ben Johnson. And I think that was
in a big way.
And that was the point. The point was they were very in for Ben Johnson. It was all, I wouldn't say it's not a lock. Nothing's a lock until it's signed, sealed, and delivered. But I genuinely think that's what they were expecting. They were expecting to get on that plane. Ben Johnson doesn't leave that building until he comes back as the Commander's head coach.
And that's why he didn't show up. Weak man.
This is the second time he's done this now.
Mate. That's poor. I think that's such an unprofessional way of doing things. I don't want a guy who's unprofessional. Especially if he's meant to be the leader of men.
There's 32 teams in the NFL, and getting a head coaching gig is really, really difficult to be a head coach.
This guy thinks he must think he walks on water or something because
I know. Honestly,
everyone's loving him. To be fair, I mean, even though it might sound spiteful, I actually hope he does really badly next season because I don't think the Lions are going to be as good.
No, they're not.
As this season. Next season,
Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn are the two rah-rah guys there.
Yeah,
we know that. If you watched
Hard guy,
no, you don't. But if you watched Hard Knocks when the Lions were on Hard Knocks, it's always them two voices. It wasn't Ben Johnson's voice that was in the building. And maybe he thinks I'm not ready. You know, there is always that. Or they may have been put off by money. We don't know. We don't know what the ins and outs of the machinations.
Well, according to Ben Johnson, he said he spoke to his wife, and his wife was saying, "Well, we both love it here in Detroit, and this and that, the other, and why would we leave? We're doing well. We're close to a Super Bowl, etc., etc." But the thing is, next season the NFC ain't going to be as bad. Trust me. Teams are making moves in the NFC. I can't see Lions. This would be a chance. This year was their chance to get to the Super Bowl. And they're not going to be there next year. They're looking to make just the playoffs first round before they get knocked out. I'm telling you. They're going to lose some dudes. They are going to lose some dudes. You know,
it'd be interesting, especially when you look at how good Green Bay did with they were unexpectedly in the playoffs, and then Green Bay absolutely smoked the Cowboys. I mean, that for me also leaves a bitter taste in the mind of fans, especially Commanders fans, because we have sat there and laughed at the Cowboys getting absolutely torn up. And that's Dan Quinn's defense. So the last bit of knowledge or the last bit of what you see from the season is how poor that defense played. But what you're not seeing is, as I've said there, the Cowboys defense has been in the top 10 for the last 3 years. They've got an unbelievable player in Micah Parsons. And then they've got, you know, they've led the league in takeaways for 2 of them 3 seasons. It's clear that Dan Quinn is a very good defensive coordinator. Is he a good head coach?
Well,
it remains to be seen. It remains to be seen what will happen. I think
that's what I'm saying. If you forget his defensive coordinating skill, just go off his head coaching stats.
43 and 42.
That's
a Super Bowl. A Super Bowl and a playoff win.
Definition of mid, isn't that exactly what Ron Rivera did before he come here?
Yep.
And he had an MVP quarterback as well, because he had Matt Ryan and Ron had, you know,
Cam Newton.
You know, so, and look what happened. Kyle Shanahan left Dan Quinn, and look what happened. He was actually god awful without him. Now, don't get me wrong, Kyle Shanahan is a class a class play caller, top level, and you are going to miss somebody like that. But you brought in Sarkeesian to take his place, and he was shit. No, this and that's a Dan Quinn hire. So
it's going to be difficult.
And I think at this moment, I'm going to give him a chance. I'm not going to totally, railroad him every single time. But the thing is, like, I'm just going off what I've seen so far, and I'm hope to God that he's a new man. Even Bill Belichick failed in his first time.
Yeah, of course he did. Yeah,
so these things happen. So I'm not about he's a slight retread, but he's not massive. He's not a massive retread. And let's see what he can do. But at the moment, I'm not happy. I'm just not. I'm not excited about it. Do you know what I mean?
I listened to John Kime's pod, and I think someone else was talking about it, and they were saying the only person that they spoke to when Dan Quinn was fired from the Atlanta Falcons, he's the only guy who went out and said, "How can I improve? What did I do wrong? What mistakes did I make?" And he went around the league asking the questions, "How can I get better?" If he's took that knowledge on and he's took that attitude of how to do things, I don't think the question of leadership is there. I think he is a leader of men.
Players love him, and
you don't hear a bad word about him. But the same thing you could say for Ron. No one said a bad word about Ron. And here we are with Dan Quinn. No one says a bad word about Dan Quinn. Mm-hmm. Out of all of these coaching things, to try and take a positive from it, out of all of these people who are on the coaching cycle or in interviews, whatever it may be, Dan Quinn probably has the biggest breadth of knowledge and contact throughout the NFL.
Oh yeah,
you could argue Vrabel. Oh yeah, you could argue Vrabel and say, well, he would probably have had similar, if not a larger Rolodex to go through. But he's going to have the knowledge of people who will want to come and work for him as well, which is a good thing. But for me, I agree with you. I'm going to give him till let's flip tables up in December and see where we are. Now, what we also have to do, and I've pled this for the last 3 weeks, is we have to be patient. We've got to be patient. And this, as you said, it's not the sexy hire. It's not people are out there going, oh, well, it's Dan Quinn, it's a retread, it's Ron 2.0. You've said that. And I completely understand the feeling.
Obviously, Twitter universe is obviously full of crazies.
But
the thing is like, it's 50-50, isn't it? When you look through it all, you've either got my kind of outlook of Ron Rivera 2.0, or you've got the outlook of, well, no, he's better than Ron, he's this and that, and blah, 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 blah. But all you can go off, realistically, is the stats, is what he's done. What have you done for me?
Mm-hmm.
And as a head coach, he's been bang average. It's as simple as that. So as a defensive coordinator, hell yeah, bring him in, let him do all that all day. So I'm hoping our defense will actually be decent next season. Maybe not, top 10, but a lot better than 32nd. You know what I mean?
100%, yeah.
So, the only way is up from that side of things. Obviously, our defense is going to look better. So I'm happy with that side of it. But I'm just saying, as a head coach, he's got to get the OC right, because the proof is there. When he had a stud OC, he got the Super Bowl. So that's what we need. We need a stud OC. So he needs to make sure this next hire for the OC is absolutely huge, man.
That's the question I have here is, and I've put it down on my piece of paper in front of me, who is going to be the OC and who is also going to be the DC? Because he can't take both on. If he's the head coach, we're going to have a new DC and a new OC.
Well, I've seen it. It'll be a scheme. It will be a scheme. So what I can see from a DC side of things, he might bring one of his guys from Dallas over.
Yeah, I heard that. And I'm looking at Ian Rappaport here has said, I'd expect Quinn to bring alongside secondary coach stroke passing game coordinator Joe Witt to be his defensive coordinator.
Yeah, see, because he knows Dan's scheme inside out. He's been there a few years. So I understand. I understand that pick. I understand picking him up. You know what I mean? Hiring him. I understand that completely. But the OC
is absolutely key. It's absolutely key. I mean, at the moment, we've still got Eric Bieniemy, who's got a year left on his contract. I mean, I don't know. I don't. Is he going to stick with EB? Because if we do, God help us.
We're going to expect to be picking second again next year. Let's be honest here. Let's be honest. I mean, you've seen what EB's done with that offense we've already had.
Yeah,
absolute dog shit. So. If he's going to be there next season as offensive coordinator, then it's going to be much of the same. ruin
think
Sam Howell.
they need.
Would you trust him with a number 2 overall pick QB? No, you wouldn't want to trust him with that. So
I wouldn't be
available.
surprised if early next week EB is relieved of his duties and he's gone.
I think what they'll do, they'll fire him at the same time we hire somebody. That makes
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
On the same day. Yeah.
Yeah, same day.
I just think that this. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's been a thorough position. The other question I've got for you then, Scouse, on this, and we'll just spat it around is: do you still think we're under the effect of the Dan Snyder problem? Because we all looked at this hire and said, do you know what? It's probably the first, if not second best destination to go. You have the number 2 overall pick. You have the highest cap space in the whole of the NFL. You have 6 picks in the top 104. You've got a roster that you can totally build yourself completely with 26 free agents that are free. You can build this team in your own way that you want to do things. You've got a patient owner. Yes, you don't have a patient fan base, but you have a patient owner who's willing to let you work. You know, you're not going to be on the hot seat immediately if you end up in the same position we were this time this year at the end of this season. I don't know why it took so long. I appreciate it was a thorough and fast, as they said it was going to be, but I just think we've been burnt by Ben Johnson, and that's why we've ended up with Quinn.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the burnt by Ben Johnson thing. I'll come back to that in a sec. But what you were saying about all those things you mentioned, all the positives that we've got here, all those things, who really has the power in those things that you mentioned?
The GM.
Exactly. So it's perfect for a GM. That's why Peters wanted to come here. It's not perfect for a head coach. Head coach is different because he might want one guy and Peters goes, well, actually, I want this guy instead. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So they have to kind of correlate from that angle. I think Ben Johnson's one of his big things was he wanted full autonomy over the players he brought in on offense, and Peters didn't like that idea. So that's the thing. He says, well, Peters obviously that's his thing. He builds the rosters. That's his job.
Yeah, he does. I mean,
that's what he thinks he's good at. So
we've said that, coach
who's willing to deal with that. Do you know what I mean?
We said that before that he.
So
is
as a head coach, I think we're probably mid. No, as a head coach, if you've got a superstar new GM who's going to be running the whole show, and you're just there to basically be the main coach, not actually help manage or get players in, or as in like specific guys rather than just traits, which you're probably going to talk about in training sessions and all the other the draft and all the rest of it. They're going to talk about those things, but true guys, they might go, well, actually, I don't want Hockenson, or I don't want this guy, or you see what I mean, like. And Peters be like, no, oh, yeah. And then he started getting problems. So if they're not on the same page from there, that's probably another reason why we didn't actually offer him a formal contract. But Ben Johnson did focus though big time. But I think he tried to play his way out of it, and we kept saying yes to everything he said. I read somewhere again. Some of these things are a little bit. It wasn't Kime, it wasn't a superstar. The thing is, it's like someone said
Twitter bullshit. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it could be Twitter bullshit.
A source told me this. Well, show us your source,
exactly,
mate. Not
source,
to
exactly.
Not to
take some of it.
up,
I mean, if you think about one end of the spectrum and the other end, somewhere in the middle is kind of where the real truth is. If that makes sense.
Of course it is. Yeah, there's no smoke without fire, is there?
Exactly. And the thing is, though, is that Ben Johnson turned around to him and said he wanted a 6-year deal when he found out that the guy from Carolina got a 6-year deal.
Well, that's what Mike McDonald signed in Seattle.
Done. Do you see what I mean? They had the power. They had the leverage.
Yeah, of course they did.
So Ben was like, okay, well, originally it was a 4-year deal, supposedly, that he kind of verbally agreed to. Supposedly, he verbally agreed to it. Then he went over to fly over to do the formalities of it. And then he bottled it in mid-air and just blamed it on his wife, basically saying how much he loves Detroit and how much she's done that in there and all the rest of it. Load of crap, mate.
This is the second time. Yeah, he did. And this is the second time Ben Johnson's turned down a head coaching position.
He might be available next year. I mean, if he has a bad season next season.
He's not on the tree, is he?
Just imagine if you lost Jared Goff, for example.
Yeah.
Season.
Were you going to go with Teddy Bridgewater, or who is the
I don't know who their backup was.
But yeah, I think it was Teddy Bridgewater, and there was was it Hooker they got as well in the draft?
Oh, isn't he still just come back with an ACL?
Yeah, I think
and
so.
Hooker. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, okay, you might have some talent, but the thing is, it's like big risks. And don't forget,
Massive
Johnson turned us
risks.
down, who would have had a rookie number 2 overall quarterback, realistically. He stayed knowing that he's got the quarterback knowing his scheme. He's got a decent enough quarterback, etc., a veteran. He didn't want to go down there. I'm a new head coach. I don't want a brand new rookie quarterback. You know what I mean? So it's I just think like I think he's a beta rather than an alpha. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
I think, and you mentioned before, he's not a raw guy. You don't have to be, but the thing is like, as you say, he's very, very quiet. He's very cerebral. You know, he's all those type of guys. Like, he just looks at you, and the player knows. You know what I mean? Rather than actually having to chew him out, anything like that. And I just think
Ian, your brother's
you know what I mean?
Ian, your brother's put a comment in the chat there, and he said, "I don't think that McDonald or Johnson wanted to have a fixer-upper. They preferred the other thing." I understand that. If you're going to Seattle, I mean, there's questions.
I understand McDonald going to Seattle.
Yeah, there's questions over the quarterback there. I completely understand where he's gone. I would have thought, though, if I'm McDonald, why would you not come here? That's the other thing. If you're living in Baltimore.
Well, that might be
a mistake. You know what I mean? It could be. It could be.
Baltimore fans, or
maybe who knows? Money probably.
A deal out, but he 8-10 million a year, whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. Hang on a minute. Yeah.
And the thing is, as well, Seattle. Yeah, I mean, their defense is pretty decent.
It is, yeah.
And he's going to make them a hell of a lot better. No, there's a lot of moving parts, as you said, in our team. You know, there's 20. Now, again, you could say, well, yeah, it's you can make your stamp on it straight away. But the thing is, you got to make sure you hire the right player. Do you know what I mean? You know, you hire the wrong player, you're trying to do a 20-man rebuild. You know, it's a big problem if you get it wrong. You know what I mean? So I can understand why it's big risks, but really, if you're a true alpha, you think, and you've got a bit of an ego about you, which most of these head coaches do have. Let's be honest. Oh, I can sort that out. No worries. You know what I mean? And obviously Dan Quinn thinks he can do it. So fair enough. But yeah, man.
Yam's in the chat as well. He said, Ron Rivera, here we go, Ron Rivera 2.0. And that's exactly what you said. That's exactly what you said at the start of the show. So, and Deluxe
tends to be
Deluxe,
aligned quite well.
You're always online with Yam. You're always aligned together. And Deluxe, thanks for being with us as well. We appreciate it. Same with you, Ian. Thanks for tuning in and being with us. And Scott, who's on as well. So fully appreciate the usual chat. And they're good lads. They follow us on all of our shows. So can't blame them at all. Yeah, really interesting. I mean, the OC is the key hire here, Scouse. It's who is going to be that OC. Someone who can control the Dan Quinn's defense. I think it will be the chap from the Cowboys, Joe Wilkes, I think he's called. So yeah, he'll be probably coming across from there. But who does he bring in as the OC? Because obviously there wasn't any OC talent on the coaching tree that didn't get a job this time round. There's been 5 hires of defensive coordinator of what were defensive-minded guys. So that's very interesting as well. Out of the 7, 5 of them are defensive guys.
Yeah, the stats look shady though for people who've won Super Bowls in the past.
3 years. 100%.
Well, actually, no, that's just playoff wins, even the man Super Bowls.
Yeah, it was 20. I think I saw something saying last 2019. It was 12 wins, one win for defensive guys. Mm-hmm. Same the following year. Then the end of this year, it will be
4,
9 and 4. I think it is. Yeah, is where we're at.
4 for defensive guys, and that's just to win a playoff game, not to go all the way.
Yes, that's a playoff.
You know what
game.
I mean? So it is more difficult. But as I'm saying, that's why it's so important. That's why, you know, when Slowick said, "No, I'm staying at Houston." I mean, that was a huge signing for them to keep him, because
he's got a bumper pay deal. But the other thing we talk about Johnson, he hasn't even got a pay increase.
No, that's what I'm saying. This guy's like I don't know what's his game. I really don't understand.
I'm
as you say, it's purely. Let's say, fair enough. He made that decision. Maybe his wife owns his balls. I don't know. You know what I mean? But the thing is, he's staying. Fair enough, he's staying. But the thing is, to do it the way he did it, that's what's really going to piss me off more than anything else.
Oh, yeah.
Because anyone could say no. I mean, you can go to a job interview, go for it, nailed it, you get offered it, then you realize you just go, you know what? It's not the right fit for me. See, I'm going to turn it down. That's no problem. I've got no problem with people doing that. Yeah. It's when you do shady things like they flew across the country to get to come and see you specifically. And while they're in the air, you do that rather than actually just tell me before they got on the plane so they didn't have to travel anywhere and just say, look, I've changed my mind. You know what I mean? That's it, done. No, I've got to find you about. I'll do it via text because I don't want to speak to them because I haven't got the balls to actually speak to him face to face or actually even on a Zoom call, nothing.
Yeah, exactly. It
You
could
know
have
what I
just
mean?
been
And it was like, mate, honestly, that takes that's shit. That's fucking sly, to be honest, mate.
I think so too. I just think it's awful. It's an awful way of conducting business. If you're going to turn someone down, you go down to wherever the interview is going to be held and you say, listen, guys, we've had a rethink. I'm staying here. I appreciate you've flown all this way, but you know, I thought I'd give you the decency of coming out and saying I'm here in person to meet with you, to talk with you. But honestly, it's not for me. You could accept that, even if you traveled all that way, you could accept that. It should have been better if he'd done it before they travel. Absolutely, completely agree with you. You know, you ring them up
Just
even and
have the
say hi.
balls, man. Just have the balls to speak to him, even if it's
Just
on the phone. Just say, look,
correct.
man, I say be coming out here. I'm just not going to take
Dude,
the job.
what you
You
have
know,
to remember here as well is we're dealing with people in the front office who are winners. That's the strange thing. For the first time in 25 years that I've known this team, we're dealing with winners. Now, Josh Harris, not necessarily, but you've got billionaires. You've got billionaires who have egos. You have billionaires who trod on a lot of fucking toes to get to the top of their trees in their respected fields. You do not become a billionaire without treading on someone's toes. That is an absolute fact. There's no nice guys at the top end, sharp end of business. So Josh Harris is probably fucking seething at
yeah,
the
no,
moment with that.
he'll be ranging more than
Oh
me.
yeah,
Out
absolutely.
it, you know.
And then you think to yourself, you've hired this hotshot GM. Now, that is an absolute home run getting Adam Peters. No doubt about it. That is the hire. And you're thinking to yourself, hey, this is going to be amazing. We're going to get the best offensive mind out there as well. It's almost a lock. It's pretty much guaranteed. The insiders, the media are talking about it. And then it's Dan Quinn. It is a drop off. And I understand exactly where this fan base is coming from to say this is a drop off. It's a complete drop off and it's 2.0 Ron Rivera. It's mid. But what we have to do is, honestly, I'm pleading with everybody. I hate it because I hate losing. I don't want to see losing on a weekend. I don't want to be on here every Thursday with you going, well, we lost again last week and it was shit. And I don't want to do that anymore. But it isn't going to be a thing that you could turn around in one season. The Houston Texans is a one-off, in my opinion. Could it be replicated here? Absolutely. If you get the right OC hire, this can be replicated. The Houston model of going from a high drafted quarterback, a really high cap space, a dysfunctional franchise that's been a dysfunctional franchise for many, many years through front office or through, ownership, whatever, to then getting them to a playoff team. That can happen.
I mean, I agree, but the thing is, though, have you mentioned in previous pods, they've done the Ron Rivera way of doing it.
Of course they have.
You know, right. They've built the team and then dropped the quarterback in with a Slowick alongside him and DeMeco Ryans as well. So all those things just melded in once, and it's just a perfect match, and it's just gone flying.
The Laramie Tunsil,
yeah, the Tunsils, and other guys, that they went up to get Will Anderson. Did all these different things, man, that they've done, and it's been home run hits. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the thing. I don't care what you actually do, just make sure it's right. As in, like, it works out, even if it's the wrong player or even the Dan Quinn. If he starts actually looking decent, especially on defense, and keeps us in games early doors while the offense is still trying to learn, we won't have any problems with Dan Quinn. But the thing is, if he's dog shit like he has, or extreme mid like he has been, then we're not going to be happy about it because we know what he is. We know he's mid. So I'm just hoping that he's a lot better than he was.
We haven't heard anything about the length of contract. We haven't heard anything about that yet. We haven't heard anything about a press conference when he's going to be presented. I'm assuming it will probably be Monday. We'll be there or thereabouts when he would get. I think tomorrow's probably too quick, potentially. Might get him in the building tomorrow, so you might see something on the socials.
Well, if he's in the building, he can do the press conference for half an hour.
Yeah, I seen a picture that Nikki Javala posted out. And it was Dan Quinn going through commercial flying in a suit.
Oh yeah.
Back from DC.
Yeah.
He
Was it
looked,
Dulles? Was he in Dulles Airport?
yeah,
Was
it does.
Yeah.
He looked absolutely knackered. I thought, my God, that guy, and you've seen a breath, he was like, I was like, that guy looks absolutely done in. And I just
been in
thought,
for 4 hours getting grilled, that's why.
yeah, I thought, okay, I get it, I understand. But we've got to trust this. I hate this word, trust the process. But that's what we've got to do, unfortunately. Now, one of the questions we got here was from Jesse. Obviously, Jesse Martin. He's Jesse S24. He's the host of the Bleeding Burgundy podcast, which you can catch on a Monday and Friday live on YouTube too. And he's also the co-host of the Bunker podcast with Andy and yourself, Scouse. He said, will there be Chernobyl-sized meltdown of the Washington fan base if and when Dan Quinn is hired as head coach, present company included? Yes, Jesse, it's going off now. I'm waiting for the button to be pressed as we speak. Yeah, it's just, it has melted. It has melted. Twitter is in absolute meltdown.
There's so many things going on. I mean, even mentions here, he mentioned this in one of the group chats I'm in with Yam. You know, he mentioned it like a couple of days ago. Like it was, you know, as soon as we had an inkling about Dan Quinn being the guy, that we would be all kinds of spin and smoke and blow it up our ass to make sure that he's now our top choice and all this crap. And it's exactly what's been doing. You know, and I think it's just like, and then also you're seeing like all the main media guys all trying to dogpile on kind of us, as in the fans who are unhappy about the signing of Dan Quinn.
Yeah.
The thing is, but that's the thing you see. It's like, you've got to see, it's great. I want to be positive, but I'm also a realist, and that's why half the time I sound bloody downbeat all the time. But the thing, I try to keep it real as best as possible. You know, there's no point in going, oh, Dan Quinn, oh yeah, the second coming of Bill Belichick and all this shit and all that. No, we know what he is. I'm just hoping that he can prove me wrong. I'd love to sit here and say, Dan Quinn, what a dude. You know what I mean? That's what I want to say. I want to say this guy's the real deal, but you just got to prove that to me, to be honest.
I think the other problem you've got here is if you get an OC in who becomes the OC and is an offense is amazing, and we end up going through the offense is cooking, we're winning games, we're starting to get better as we go on. They then get a look on the coaching tree. Then you have to think, who's the next guy that's going to come in behind them, or girl for that matter? Who's going to come in behind them and be the next offensive coordinator? Because you're always in that cycle where someone's going to poach the person.
That's the problem, and that's why I wanted an offensive guy as head coach. You know, that's why I wanted Ben Johnson. He was my first choice.
Yeah, he was mine too, mate. He was mine too. 100%.
And Slowik wasn't like me second or third. He was more like me fourth. But
you've been mentioning Slowik for 2 years now.
Yeah,
you wanted him as
I wanted him as an OC last season before he went over to
the
Texans there.
Texans, yeah.
Because he was part of the 49ers team again.
Yeah, he was.
Now, speaking of the 49ers again, there is a couple of guys over there that could be really good, really good, young-minded head coaches, offensive coordinators. You know, Gary Kubiak's son called Clint. Actually, he's got two sons who work for them, actually, both on the offense for the 49ers. And one is the passing game coordinator.
Okay.
His name's the older one's called Clint. Okay, and he's the one who's got like more experience. So Clint Kubiak, he looks
Greg
like
Kubiak's son, is he?
He's Gary Kubiak's son. And
Gary, sorry, not Gary.
Gary Kubiak's son. So he could be a really nice addition. Say Peters knows about him. Obviously, he's worked with him, etc., etc. It could be a really nice one. But again, it depends who's got the power on that. Who is making the OC? That, or is the Quinn saying, "Hey, I want somebody else, or I want this guy," and obviously, you got to have that discussion. But for me,
I think the other thing is,
I want someone like somebody who's got a bit of experience though as well. That's the problem.
Yeah,
that's the problem I've got, man.
I think the other thing as well is, like we said, there's a dearth of talent on the offensive side. People are firing coordinators left, right, and centre. Coordinators are getting picked up from here, there, and everywhere. People are getting promoted. I can't keep up with who's done what, where, how. It's just it's an everyday thing, and you just look and go, oh well, that person's gone there, that person's gone there. It's very, very difficult to find that new genius offensive mind. There isn't one out there.
And do you take the risk on someone with a lack of experience as an OC at the NFL level? That's the other thing. You know, you can get a superstar stud from college, for example, You know, Cliff Kingsbury came in straight into head
Yeah.
coach, and he bombed. You know what I mean? So
Well, he hasn't signed for the Bears.
no, he's still out there. He's still out there, Cliff. He
Mm.
could be an interesting OC. Again, but also I've heard Chip Kelly wants to come back to the NFL,
Yeah, seen that too.
and
Yeah,
he's a very good offensive coordinator. He was a dog shit head coach, but really good offensive coordinator. And he wants to take pay cut to come back. He's on shitloads I can't remember where he's at now. Was it UCLA or something like
I
that?
think he's at UCLA. Yeah.
And he's done really well for them. So
shout out to Tony Wheat for that info. But there you go. But yeah, it's. I think this is the biggest.
It could be a good one as well.
This is the biggest problem, isn't it? So I think it's probably nailed on that they're going to get the guy from the Cowboys to be the DC. So yeah, Joe Witt is his guy. He is currently the secondary coach and passing game coordinator. So be interesting to see if he comes in, which I think he may well do.
I definitely think it's going to be a Quinn disciple who's going to come in because I say he knows Quinn's offense. Quinn's defense. He knows it well. He's been in it for a couple of years. He's teaching these guys, and as you say, they are very good at takeaways. They're very aggressive defense, which is I like to see that. I like to see that rather than the zone bullshit that we do, the zone match crap that we've been up with for the last 3-4 years. You know, I want to see an aggressive defense. I want to see pressure on their quarterback. I want to see picks. I want to see mistakes from their offense because of our defense being that good.
Well, following on from that then, and your point, exactly to your point, Yam Starch on Twitter, Yam Sensei, if you have a look at it for him on there, he's also put a question into us. So thank you for your question, Yam. He said, do you guys want to see more of an emphasis put on bringing the defense back to prominence like it was in its heyday, with an offense that just eats clock with occasional big plays, or rather have a high-octane offense with a more mid-tier defense?
Well, it's a difficult question, that one, Jan, because obviously the way the football's played now, you want the high-octane offense and the mid-defense. The problem is that you've got Dan Quinn who focuses on being a good defense. So you've really got to go with what your head coach is going to be doing. So bring back a solid defense and just hopefully getting enough points on offense to be able to win games. You know, it won't be as you say. It's not, as you say about Dan Quinn being a sexy pick. It's not going to be not going to be a sexy style. You know what I mean? So, personally, if it was me, if I had the chance, it would be the first one. It would be the high octane offense. But if we had a Ben Johnson owning, being head coach, or even a Slowick, you know, the offense would be would be that, and the defense would be kind of mid. But yeah.
So I suppose, Scouts, this is a good opportunity to go into our fan questions then, because we've answered a couple of them already. So let's just rattle through these and get them out of the way. Everyone who's put a fan question in, everyone who's posted on the chat, really appreciate you doing that. And thank you again for doing these questions. You are the lifeblood of this show. Otherwise, it's just me talking to my better looking partner in crime here for an hour, which I do enjoy. I enjoy it every week. It is my therapy, if you like. But no, honestly, thank you for putting the questions in, guys. Really appreciate it. So the first one is from Andy Burrows, our partner in crime, Washington UK fan on Twitter, the host of the Bunker podcast, which I believe is Mondays and Fridays. Is that when you go and do your recording? Usually. Mm-hmm. So his question is for Scouse. He says, how many drinks will it take for Scott to be completely bungalowed, which I've never heard, at my birthday drinks next weekend?
I know you put down 4, but I think it's more like 4 sniffs. I think like you just inhaling that lager, and you'd be like, all over the floor. So
I need a Coca-Cola.
yeah, you'll have a can of Coke in your hand, but then you're like, just have that kind of Heineken next to you, like, ugh, and then that'll be it. KO'd. That's what I think. Half a pint.
Half a pint. I'm not for anyone who doesn't know, I'm not a massive drinker at all. I used to drink quite regularly for a number of years, and I was okay with it. But yes, I can have a few pints when I need to. Don't ask about the trip over when you have 4 pints of Guinness and then have to get on an 8-hour plane. When you have 4 pints of Guinness in about 15 minutes, Not good for your stomach,
Yeah,
Scouts. Not good at all.
that was dumb from you. You're not going to lie.
Very dumb. Yeah. But you actually thought to yourself there, God, Hartley's picked his game up here. What's happening? You know what I mean?
You did, but I realized
no.
then you realized you were being sick everywhere. So it was just like,
Yeah, not
whatever,
a good,
dude.
not a good shout. Not a good shout. I'm still sticking to 4, but there you go. That's my one. Cheers,
4
Andy.
off.
Appreciate you. And we are really looking forward to driving down and seeing you next weekend. I can't wait for that to do. Be great to catch up with you, buddy. Next one we've got is Rod Morrison. He's Rod Moore 39721910. Very specific. He said, could Dan be the man to take us to the playoffs and beyond in the years to come? And also, who do you think will be the OC and DC? We've also got a question very similar on this one, Scouts, from Steve, I believe. Let me have a quick look back on the X app. And he said pretty much exactly the same thing. Yeah, Steve Fox, he said, who will be the defensive and offensive coordinator? I think we've been through that a little bit, but it's very tough to say. Honest answer here, I don't have a fucking clue. Straight up, I haven't got a clue who he's going to pick. Like I said, I think that this chap from the Cowboys, I think he will be.
I think he's
probably there.
Well, I'm not going to say a lock, just like Ben Johnson.
If Ian Rappaport's reporting it, you'd probably say, yeah, do you know what? That is probably There's as you said, there's no smoke without fire, is there? So something's in there. Who he's going to bring on.
I can definitely see him showing up. That what's his name?
Joe Witt.
Joe Witt. Yeah. So bring him in, and then hopefully he's not a dimwit. You know what I mean? But bad pun. But still, I still want to be shit. You know what I mean?
Secondary coach and passing game coordinator at the Cowboys. He is. So it'll be interesting there. But as you said, Kubiak, don't have a problem with that.
Gary
Mike
offensive mind.
Mike Vrabel's still on the table. You know what I mean? He's not getting a look. So does he? I think he has.
A defensive guy? I want him, mate.
No, as a DC, you could bring him in as a DC.
But no. He
won't run.
He got his own defense, man.
Exactly. Yeah. He won't run. He won't run
somebody else's defense. So. No chance. So you're definitely looking at an up and comer, no namer, maybe. I just say that guy because he knows Dan's system, and I think that would be a smart play from Dan to do that as well. So I think he's definitely probably number 1 on the list. But to be fair, we haven't got many else at this moment on that list. But he kind of makes sense. Or somebody from Dallas would make sense. Linebacker,
or someone he's worked with for a long time. You know what I mean? But
yeah, I think that's probably the way to go.
There's no names coming forward from the OC side, which worries me a little bit because are we going to be lumped with Eric Bieniemy again?
Well, we might be, and that'll just be awful, though. I mean, it really would. I think you can't go QB at number 2 if you keep an Eric Bieniemy because you'll ruin him as well. So there's no point in even doing that. So big time, man.
So our last question almost goes back to the draft, and we can talk a little bit about that as well. So this kind of almost ties in. Was from Tim Towner. He put this in over a week ago, and I think we missed it. So Tim, I apologize now that if we missed this out there. He said in 2019, after drafting Kyler Murray with the number 1 overall pick, Arizona traded Josh Rosen, who was the 10th pick in 2018's draft, to the Dolphins for a late second, which was number 62 overall, and a 2019. And a 5th round pick in the 2020 draft as well. He said, is this the about right compensation and where the bar has been set for a Justin Fields? If that's the case, would you rather pick a QB at 2 overall or trade down and trade for Fields and let Fields and Sam Howell fight it out for QB1? Now, I've talked about this. I would not have a problem taking Justin Fields. I really wouldn't, because I honestly believe that the Bears are going to take Caleb Williams. Whether which way you look at it, they're going to take Caleb Williams. The compensation here isn't an issue. Now, if you believe a lot of the smoke, again, John Allen's on his way to Green Bay potentially for a 2nd and a 5th. There you go. There's your compensation immediately back from that, if that is the going rate. Also, what we're not focusing on is what are we going to get and what is that 2nd round pick worth, or 2nd overall pick, worth right now? Because there are going to be teams out there who are desperate for a quarterback, and it's not just, oh, New England, they're going to trade up one spot. It's going to be a Las
Yeah.
Vegas Raiders. It's going to be a New York Giants potentially.
That's
There
what I
are
was going to say.
plenty of
I think the
needy
Giants are going to go for
teams.
quarterback. I really do.
I do too.
I think they'll make moves because
And they don't mind him
Daniel
sitting for a
Jones,
year.
they're done with him, mate.
Jaden Daniels screams out the Giants for me massively.
Why?
I think
Because
that's
it's a bit like John Jones.
no,
He's got good legs.
because I think he can
Real.
he can sit there behind Daniel Jones, learn a bit of the offense, and then they can play him next year, which is what you'd ideally want. I mean, Green Bay
and this is why I think QB. Sorry, that's why I think the Giants will go QB. It just depends.
Green Bay have set that tone, though, haven't they? They have set the tone, and they've done it. I mean, Christ, we haven't had a frigging franchise quarterback in my entire fandom, and here we are on Green Bay with 3.
Yeah,
honestly, I mean, I wouldn't say Jordan Love is the finished deal, but my God, he looks good.
Exactly, and if you he's getting better, that's what you need to see. Progression, that he's getting better. When he first started, he was rough. Then, as you see, he went on a run because he played well. And as I'm saying, he's getting better all the time. He's getting used to NFL speed, because that's the other important thing as a quarterback when you're not used to it. It's the speed. In college, you get 5 seconds to throw the ball. In the NFL, even with a great offensive line, you get 3. That's a great offensive line.
I think if you trade down and you pick a tackle, you do not want to trade out of anything below 5th, I would say. Or if you need to trade down to someone who's coming up for a quarterback, you're going to have to trade back.
It'd have to be something insane to go into 8th or 9th or 10th.
Oh, yeah, because or you yourself then have to trade back up, which is going to be very
which kind of defeats the object, doesn't it? Really,
it does. Yeah, it does.
So you'd rather go, just say, go down to 5 or 6, pick up the Joe Alt, pick up the first, maybe a third, or something like that. Or
a Fashanu, I'm happy with that. Absolutely, either or doesn't matter for me.
Fascianu's not top 5 though for me.
Really?
Fascianu, no.
Where would you say he's going? I mean, do you think Joe Alt is the first offensive tackle off the board?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do believe that. I think he'll be around that 5th or 4th mark. I mean, maybe 6th at the lowest.
So if you take us away and we're not going QB, and we go, okay, that's fine, we're not going QB. Let's just make this scenario up. We're not going QB at 2. We trade down, and we trade down to, say, 5th or 6th. So you're going to go Williams at 1. Who's 6th? Not the Giants, is it? Might be, actually. I'll have to look.
Might have to be the Giants.
Yeah, I think it might be. I might be right there. But yeah, I think the biggest one would be New England. Would be the biggest one immediately to think of, of where you're going to go to. But
6 is the Giants.
It is the Giants. I thought it might be. Yeah,
they're not miles back. I mean, Las Vegas, the 13th.
Yeah, that's huge. That Arizona aren't taking a quarterback at 4. Chargers aren't taking a quarterback at 5. Tennessee, do you think they're going to stick with?
They do love the new guy in it from they got last year.
What's his face? I can't remember his name now. He sat there for ages in the draft room as well.
He thought he was getting picked for his first round, and he didn't.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Atlanta at 8. They could come up.
I think they'll be looking for a quarterback.
Yeah, Atlanta at 8. They're definitely looking for a quarterback.
New head coach as well. New head coach. I can see that.
So we say, let's just say you trade with Atlanta and you're down at 8th. Mm-hmm. Who's going there? So you're going QB1, QB2, QB3. That's 3 QB straight off the board. Who's
Arizona?
4th? Arizona are taking the wide receiver.
Yeah, I'd say
Marvin Harrison.
I'd take Marvin Harrison.
Yeah. So that's 4.
Chargers. They could look at tackle, but then saying they've got a couple of decent tackles. So
yeah, Darisaw.
I'm sure with Chargers. The Giants will take another QB.
Yeah.
The Giants take
another
6. QB. So yeah, so there's 4 QBs gone.
So Tennessee at 7, not sure what they're doing. They'll probably go tackle.
They might even go. They might go tackle. Yeah, they might go like what's it?
Dunze?
Because they're crap as well.
Dunze or whatever it's called.
Dunze or someone. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So you could potentially
just at 8th, so we could get Joe Alt.
I mean, you could potentially do that.
There's only probably maybe 2 teams that might even think about going for him out of those top 8.
Yeah, and that's the
Might.
Chargers.
Even then, it's might. You know what I mean?
But even so, I think Fashanu is good enough as a franchise Pro Bowl left tackle. I truly believe that he's
I
off
just
the
think he's
chart.
great, mate. I just think he's crazy. I mean, I prefer to give me the rock solid run guy, but fair enough. But yeah, for me, I think Gerald's one, and I do think Fashan is two. But yeah,
Maurice Mims 3 on the board for me as
I'd
well.
say
I think
that.
he's
I'd
next.
say that, and then
Um,
probably about fourth or
yeah,
fifth. But he'd be
yeah,
like second round, probably like top of the second.
top of the second. But the thing is, if you do trade back, the rebuild is quicker because
I
you've
think
got
it just
because
depends.
you
Do you love Sam
Justin
Howell
Fields.
enough?
Oh no, Justin, if you already traded for Fields.
And Justin Fields and having the ball to actually go out and pay him because he's going to be big money.
Yeah, of course he is. Well, he's not going to be big. He's not going to be big money this season, but he'll be big money the following season.
Yeah, because
you're right.
Because let's face it, you're not going to trade for him for a second or third rounder or both.
Yeah,
and then go, we're just going to have you for your last year of your deal. No,
that's not
if you trade for him, you're going to give him an extension instantly.
Of course, you are
part of the same deal. So, we're looking at 40 mil probably per year on average.
Yeah, but you've got it. 40 mil a year is what probably the going rate would be. I would think 40, 45.
I think,
but you're going to have to front load that contract, as in backload that contract.
I do think the tag is like 37 mil or something for the quarterback. So it doesn't make much difference. If that makes sense, we'll tag him one more year while if we're happy with him or not type thing and crap. No, if you're going for him, you've got to go all in. Your offensive coordinator, your head coach, and Peters have all got to be on the same wavelength and say, hey, this is exactly who we're after. This is who we want, and this is what we're going to do about it.
Do you know what I think? Do you know what I think happens here? I think we stick with it that two with the QB. I think we end up with Drake May.
It just depends whose OC is. If you've got an experienced OC, okay, you might see that more. Now, obviously, the rarity of the Houston model, Slowick is an experienced guy with a rookie quarterback, and that he made moves and he did well. That is a rarity. We can't expect that, there's going to be teething problems in a big way. So it just depends how you want to play it. Is it experience with a rookie QB, or do you go a little bit maybe less experienced OC but have an experienced quarterback like Fields? So it just depends. I mean, if Caleb's definitely going to Chicago, I wouldn't try and trade up. I wouldn't try and trade up for him because they want even though he's when you're dropping down one spot, they know they're giving up Caleb Williams. So that's still going to be a painful trade. So
looking at the chat here, Deluxe has said Chip can stay wherever he is, at least out of Washington. No, thank you. And then obviously Yam's put in my honest opinion, this is a sign of more mismanagement. Yes, it isn't Dan, but the optics aren't good. I understand the disappointment, Yam. I completely get where you're coming from.
Man, it does not move the needle for me, man. It doesn't.
Yeah, you said that, Scouse, and honestly, I'm trying my best to just plead patience and say,
and
this is where we're going to go. Let's judge it in December. Let's see where we are in December, and if it's terrible again,
I'm going to give him a season, see how he is before I start ripping shreds. But
and then obviously another one here is Yam has put in that put money on it. We'll be picking top 10 in 2025. We probably will be. Look at these teams that have been terrible that have now turned it round. Your Houstons, your Jaguars, your who else has been pretty awful, god awful for a while. Them two are the first two examples I can find off the top of my bat. They didn't do it over a season. Houston traded for Laramie Tunsil from Miami, got him in. Then they got a lot of, they've got a lot of other picks in. Look at what they did last year, picking up, pick 2 and 3. They mortgaged the future to make sure they could win a playoff game this year. And that is exactly what they've done. Yeah, they hit on the later rounds like Tank Dell, and that's where Adam Peters comes into his own. Adam Peters is the guy who picked George Kittle. Adam Peters is the guy who picked Deebo Samuel. Adam Peters is the guy who picked Javon Kinlaw. These sort of players. We have to make sure that he is doing his job and he has got the draft board up and he knows what he's doing. That's why everyone's kicked off a little bit and said, "Oh, Adam Peters is in Mobile watching the Senior Bowl." I'm happy with that. I'm absolutely ecstatic that he's out there watching it.
I think the question was, why has he gone there when we haven't hired our head coach?
Well, we have,
obviously we already hired him. And that's why I thought, well, one point of me sticking around here, I'm going to go to Mobile. But obviously, so we all kind of knew that to a certain extent. It was like, we've obviously made a decision on who we're hiring. And he's gone off to actually start scouting players, which is what he likes to do. So,
Of course he does. Yeah, that's him.
So I knew we hired somebody as soon as he left to go there. But it just depended who it was. And obviously, he ended up being Quinn. But yeah, I mean, no problem with Peters going to Mobile at all.
Neither have I. Another good question here from obviously Deluxe in the chat. He said, "What are your thoughts about curl extension now that Dan Quinn is in the building?"
I think it should be a priority, man. It should be a priority because he has been our best player in the secondary for a long time. Now I know last year down year, but everyone was a down year, so
it was.
So for me, that should be a priority. Dan Quinn should be sorting out with Peters and saying, "Hey, I want to keep this guy around." So I'm hoping that he can sort a deal out before he
money is going to be the biggest problem there.
But and that's why they might see how he does in free agency, as in like
testing the water
contracts, those type of things. You know, even I mean, very rare you see it nowadays, but maybe the transition tag, stuff like that as well. You know, so because no one's going to trade like 2 firsts for him.
No.
So you'll be able to get him on a cheaper, and you're able to actually do or even do an offer sheet where you can match whoever anybody else.
I think you get the right to do that anyway, as the team who has the registration. Is you get the right to offer them exactly the same money of what they've got elsewhere. I mean, look at J.D. McKissick. We did it to Buffalo.
Yeah, true.
You know, a couple of years ago. So J.D. McKissick went to Buffalo, and we said, "Nah, bollocks to that. We'll pay you the same as what Buffalo are offering." Yeah, it caused a bit of ruction, but that's maybe what we have to do with Cam Curl.
This is what happens, though, isn't it? You choose us, you get hurt. That's exactly what happened to J.D. McKissick, man.
He has to see, Cam Curl has to see what is out there on the open market from my opinion. Do I rate Cam Curl? Absolutely. I've got his jersey. He is an unbelievable talent, especially from a 7th round pick, which he should never have been a 7th round pick. But because of the COVID year, he fell off the radar. But what a player. And he can play in several positions, which is also a good factor for him.
I think Dan would use him very nicely. I mean, because you look at, one thing that you notice about the Dallas defense, that their safeties are okay, but they're not amazing.
No, they're not.
Cam Curl in there, and you get yourself 2 decent corners. I mean, that instantly that secondary looks a lot better. You know what I mean? It hasn't even got to be elite corners, just good corners. You know, so and we can get those, and hopefully in the draft. You know, or go out and spend some money and get one. So
free agency,
yeah, because there's a lot of good guys actually out there in free agency. So, you know,
edge rushers are the premium position that we need to follow in free agency.
Definitely one. We need at least one stud if we can get one.
I think the problem you're going to get is, are they going to get tagged? Is Patrick Queen going to get tagged at Ravens? Is Josh Allen going to get tagged at the Jaguars?
I mean, Josh Allen might. But I don't think Queen would. I'm sure there's another guy who's not on defense. It might be an offensive guy, and I think they might be using the tag on him. I just can't remember who it is.
Interesting.
So one's going to be becoming a free agent there, unless they offer him a deal that he doesn't accept it beforehand.
Well, I think our last port of call on here then is to talk about the playoffs and talk about what happened last week. I mean, 49ers played the Lions in Santa Clara there, and it finished 34-31 to the 49ers. The Lions blew this game, Scouts. They absolutely blew this
second
game.
half. Where was Ben Johnson's offense then? I mean, don't get me wrong. Great, defensive play from the Niners. They really stepped it up in the second half. But the first half, they were getting torn apart. They didn't know what they were doing, and they had them by the balls. Detroit had them by the balls and then let them off, as you said. They blew it.
Not going for
anything second half, man.
The decisions for not going for 3, the drop passes as well.
There's being aggressive, and then there's being overly aggressive. And I think Dan Campbell went overly aggressive and it cost him. There was as you mentioned, a 3-point. I think it was like in the third, maybe, or I think end of the third quarter, close to the third quarter, and he decided to go for it, and he didn't get it. And they went down. I think got points from that actual turnover in possession. But the kick, I understand you got Badgley as your kicker. I understand that. He's not very good for the longer distance field goals. That's the reason why we got rid of him when he came into practice, because he's Mr. Extra Points, isn't he? He doesn't miss them, but start bringing him back 40 yards onwards, he's not very good at all. So I understand why he didn't. But the thing is, you've got to take points, especially when your offense has done nothing for like 4 or 5 drives there. You know, in that second half, the end of the first, going into the second half, he didn't do anything for like 4 or 5 drives besides that one that he could have got 3 from, and he just didn't. And he didn't do it. And he went, "Oh, I trust my offense." Now I get it. Trust your players. Go for it. You know, but there's times and places you needed points there more than anything else. And because they were not firing on all cylinders in offense then. So why would you go for it on 4 and 4? I think it was. Why are you doing that? Take the points and then live to fight another day. But again, we all like being ultra aggressive, go for it on 4th down and all this. It's great when it comes off and it's awful when it doesn't. But at that point, I felt they needed points.
Yeah, I agree.
And he should have went for the field goal. If you missed it, okay, you missed it, but I thought he would have done the right thing, as in there's the right choice from the coach. But that time I thought he was wrong with that one.
I agree completely with you. What about the Ravens and Chiefs games then? 10-17 to the Chiefs.
That's always be a low scoring game
again. You were right. You were absolutely spot on. You did say it was going to be a low scoring game. Again, the Ravens threw this away. They threw it away.
Well, they did. Well, they did literally throw it away because he didn't actually win the ball. I mean, what were you doing? I mean, you were the number 1 rushing offense in the whole NFL between Lamar and the 2 running backs, and you don't even give the running backs the ball. I think that the most carries, one got 6.
6 carries. Yes. It was 6 carries. Yeah.
What is that? That's piss poor play calling. Whoever the offensive coordinator is, man, should be fired for that shit. Because that's poor, that. It wasn't like they were getting blown out and you had to throw it like 50 times in the game. He didn't have to. All he was doing was just play faking the pass. And then you had Lamar doing the stupid bullshit kind of sidearm shit all the time. And it was like, mate, you know, you're making your receivers to actually catch the ball.
I've got the stats up here. So the highest rusher was Lamar with 8 carries for 54. Gus Edwards, 3 carries for 20. Zay Flowers, 2 carries for 4, and Justice Hill was 3 carries for 3 yards.
Yeah, abysmal. So obviously Gus Edwards, he only got what? How many carries did he get again?
3.
And he's he's RB1.
Yeah.
And look what he got, 20 yards and 3 carries.
20 yards, yeah.
Why aren't you giving the ball to that dude? That's nearly 7 yards of carry near enough.
Yeah, it is.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's insane. No. We won't give
6.7 yards a carry. Yeah, you're right. So nearly 7 yards a carry. Mental.
Exactly. Mental. And what you do? No, just don't give him the ball. Hello.
And then Zay Flowers dropping a touchdown over the line. I mean, I was like, what are you doing here?
Oh, yeah, the fumble. Zay Flowers, man.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it was It was the drop touchdown followed by he ran back to the bench and hurt his finger.
Yeah,
and I was like,
didn't he punch the table or
something? He punched
the
bench and hurt his finger. And I was like, what on earth is going on here?
This guy lost his head, man. He lost his head.
But the thing is as well, you know.
By the way, from that guy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But then the thing that's funny here is I said to you in the middle of the first quarter in our WhatsApp chat, I said, oh, look, here's Lamar, the choker. Yeah. Always chokes a big game. And did he choke a big game? Yes, he did. I mean, yeah, it's great to say, oh, I'm going to be the MVP. Look at me, I'm amazing. He is not the MVP of the NFL. Christian McCaffrey is by far and away the MVP of the league. No question. You might as well change the MVP name to most valuable quarterback because quite honestly, no one else gets a look in. I mean, Lamar Jackson, he was 20 of 37, 271 yards, 1 TD, 1 interception. Yeah, he got 54 yards on with his feet, but he didn't do enough to get the job done. And this is now the 3rd time this has happened.
Yeah, well, normally he's banged up, you see. He's always struggling. But this year, he played it smarter with him, and they used their backs a lot more, which saved him getting pounded on all the time. I know he still ran for something like 700-800 yards, something like that. I mean,
yeah. I'm not questioning that Lamar is a legitimate top quarterback, but for me, he's not the MVP of the whole of the NFL.
For me, again, there's always been a problem with Lamar for me. He's an elite athlete, great runner, fast, agile, quick, make you miss. Great. That's a great running back. Isn't that great traits of a running back? Exactly.
Yeah,
Not,
you're right.
not a great thrower. He's not a great passer of the ball. Yeah, sometimes you'll throw a nice dime and all that. But the thing is that the guy's inconsistent, and that's the reason why he's not. I don't call him elite. I know he tears teams up, and I know they were number one seed and all this stuff. But every year's the same with him. Yeah, I don't think he's got better with his passing, his placement, his touch. I don't think he's got better with that personally. He does all this sidearm stuff now. He thinks he's Pat Mahomes. He's trying to out Mahomes out Pat Mahomes, which doesn't make any sense because there's only one of him. No one can do what he does. People try to do it. They're still not nowhere near as good as Mahomes at doing it. And Mahomes always finds a way to get it done, even though he didn't score a lot of points this time around. He found a way to get it done, and that's how good he is. And obviously, his defense, Steve Spagnuolo's defense, has been excellent this season as well.
It has been, yeah. Chris Jones is an unbelievable player.
He's a free agent at the end of the season, you know.
Wow, he's gonna want some Bitcoin.
Oh yeah,
he's gonna want some big money. But yeah, he is.
Yeah,
so get John Allen's contract off the books and get Chris Jones in. Yes, please.
Right, yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah. So Yam said a few things here as well.
Yeah, go on.
So he's like me. He's not really a Daniels fan either. So, he says Giants Twitter wants Daniels. Oof. And he goes, please let him take him. Anything to keep RG4 away from us. 100%, man. I don't want him. He's exactly like, he reminds me of RG3. Exactly. He's just that he's taller. That's the only difference. He's a one read and go merchant. That's what he is. He's a one read and go. That's what RG3 was. It's as simple as that. And, the Heisman, but so did other dudes who were crap, who didn't make it in the NFL. So yeah, I'm not worried about that too much. And then it says here, you think you mentioned in the top 10 pick last year. And then he goes, the loss is totally on Dan Campbell. And then he goes, something about guys named Dan, just not quite getting it. I get it as well, man. I get it. We've already been burned by a Dan for 20 odd years. Are we going to get burned again for another 4 or 5 years from this Dan? So we'll have to see. We'll have to see, man. We'll have to see. Yeah,
he's got a good point there. He said, while Peters was at the Pro Bowl, the Hog group just effed up the timings of everything. If you look at where and when all these interviews were taken and who got taken and by whom. I agree. I understand where you're coming from with that completely. As I said before at the start of the show, it is disappointing. I was all in on Ben Johnson, and I thought this is a lock for me. I thought this is where we're going to go. We're going to get the offensive mind. Imagine right now if Ben Johnson was announced today, the Twitter would be in absolute raptures.
It'd be stupid now. It'd be like,
we're fucking Super Bowl. Yeah, look at us. We're back. We're back. Look at us. We're back. We don't know what we're going to get with Dan Quinn, and that's the big unknown. We know what his record says, but we don't know what is going to happen. The biggest hire right now is who is going to be the offensive coordinator.
Well, that's it. Because you know what I mentioned before. We know what he's done. We know what he can do when he's got a great offensive mind with a good quarterback. You know what he can do. He can get to the dance, the big game.
Yeah.
But you got to get it right now. You've got to get it right with the OC. You really do, man. And obviously quarterback, if you go quarterback in the draft or go Fields, whatever you mentioned before, you got to get it right. It's as simple as that. If you got it wrong, it doesn't matter what Dan Quinn's defense is going to do. We're still going to lose. So
we won't mention the Super Bowl. We'll do a Super Bowl preview next week. We'll catch up and we'll do the Super Bowl preview next week on next week's show. Just want to say a special shout out and thanks to everyone who's been in the chat. So Ian, Deluxe, Yam, Scott G, thanks for being with us. We really appreciate you being on here. Thanks to everybody who put a question in. Burrows, Yam, Jesse, Rod, Steve, Tim Towner. Really appreciate you putting the questions in as well. Thank you, Scouts, for being with me as well for just over an hour. I appreciate your time every Thursday. Can't wait to chop a beer up with you next weekend. It's going to be very good. Looking forward to it. And we'll just wait and see what happens with Dan Quinn. Nothing more we can do from there. Nothing like a dull moment in Commander's Land, is there? But there you go. All right, guys, we're out from here. Thanks very much for being with us. Appreciate